If reading about the Civil War is your hobby, and you can appreciate the bravery and ingenuity of soldiers and officers on both sides, then this video is not about you. If you have Confederate ancestors, and take pride in the fact that your family played such a pivotal role in American history, then this video is also not about you. However, if you think that the cause of the Confederacy was just, then this video is very much about you. Now, before we get started, I have a confession to make, my friends. In my last Civil War video, I got up in front of you fine people, and I claimed that I worked at Gettysburg National Military Park. I would just like to say that these claims were untrue. I made them up. It's all fake. It's all fake. And the reason that I did this was to besmirch the fine reputation of Civil War reenactors everywhere. It was an entirely malevolent intention, and I just felt it best that I should just come clean to you people, because you figured me out. You exposed me. And the Woodward and Bernstein of Civil War reenacting, the detectives in the comments section, who I have to thank for exposing me, are named David Plett and David Long, the two Davids. Thank you, Davids, for all of your hard detective work. I do apologize, my friends, for leading you astray. No, of course I worked at Gettysburg. Why would I make that up? You want proof? Here's a video of me doing a tour at the Spangler Farm, the 11th Corps Hospital where Louis A. Armistead died.
Well, no man was so much like a father to me in the army than him.
Here's a picture of me teaching some kids how to use a cannon. Here's a picture of me in uniform as a Confederate officer. Oh no, it's an inaccurate belt buckle. Here's an old picture of my ID badge. Here's a commemorative coin, which, to my knowledge, was given out only to National Park employees. And here's a video I took by strapping a GoPro to my head of me leading the Pickett's Charge walk on July the 3rd.
Billy, we're gonna have to have a pretty serious talk. You do realize this, right?
Okay, yeah.
May I have a seat?
Yeah.
And you know, folks, it's actually about that day, July 3rd, on the 150th anniversary, that I want to talk to you about initially in this video. When my buddies and I, from work, were lined up, in all of our Confederate getup, and basically, leading the big throng of tourists across the field over to the Union lines, there was a gentleman going around to the various kind of Confederate, reenactors. And he had a t-shirt that said, "End the Federal Reserve, end the big banks." And he was going around to all the Confederates and he was saying, I'm so glad you're on this side. The Federal Reserve is destroying our country. It's been destroying our country for years. It's all about the big government. It's all about concentrating the money. That's how they take your rights away, by concentrating all the money in the big banks. Okay, first of all, I don't care. I don't care. Get away from me. Second of all, Federal Reserve was founded in 1913, if I'm recalling correctly. Civil War ended in 1865. So why would us being on the right side have anything to do with the Federal Reserve? And this was something that I encountered a lot when I was in Gettysburg. People just kind of taking their modern day politics and just kind of projecting it onto Civil War soldiers, onto historical figures. Now, I wish I could say that, both Northerners and Southerners were sort of both guilty of this, but no, y'all, and it gives me no pleasure to say this because I've got a lot of affection for the South. I grew up in the North. There's a reason why I lived in the South for the better part of the last decade. No, it's all Southerners. Yeah, probably 99% of the people who are sort of putting their politics on the Civil War are Southerners. But this is nothing new. This line of thinking has been around for more than 100 years. And what it really comes down to is Southerners trying to justify all that bloodshed, trying to think what's the point? What was the point of all of it? We sacrificed so much, we gave so much, and we lost. What was the point? And so they'll try to justify it, They'll engage in those sort of intellectual gymnastics to try and sort of point to anything they could possibly find, whether it was sort of the politics of the 19th century or the politics of the 21st century. See, this is where this is what we're at because the South lost the Civil War, whatever. All it comes down to is that they will find any excuse to avoid talking about slavery. Bottom line. So when I was at Gettysburg, doing my living history stuff, I portrayed both Union and Confederate soldiers. I usually did Union in the morning and Confederate in the afternoon. That usually kind of made the most sense to me because, the Union perspective is all about the superego, right? It's all about sort of logic and reason. So, wake up in the morning, you have a couple cups of coffee, a Red Bull, whatever, and you sort of go out and you're nice and sort of fresh. And you think, oh yes, well, slavery is wrong, we've got to end it, we've got to keep the Union together, preserve the Union, it all makes a lot of sense. And then, in the afternoon, after lunch, heat starts to get to you a little bit, and you kind of get mean. And the superego kind of takes a back seat to the id. And that was the perfect state of mind to play Confederates. Because, the Confederate cause isn't logical. It's an appeal to emotion, A black flag, hoist the black flag, gentlemen. No quarter for the violators of our homes and firesides. No quarter! And for us, it was a performance, it was a role. We approached it like actors. And sort of imagining ourselves in the positions of these historical personages. And, I hope by our sort of performances, we did them justice, even if our uniforms did not. But to others, it wasn't a performance. It was very real. The lost cause is alive and well, my friends, but don't believe it. Don't believe it. There's a lot of bad history out there. And it's not a scholarly debate. This is not, we're not talking about different historians disagreeing on interpretations of the Civil War. No, and reputable historians agree. The Civil War was about slavery. It's only the rest of us unqualified history buffs, squabbling and arguing, in YouTube comment sections or wherever it might be about the meaning of the war. But historians, they've agreed about the Civil War for a long, long time. There's really no debate. And to understand why historians all agree about the cause of the Civil War, we've just got to look at the words of Confederates themselves. I have right here the Confederate Constitution, and I would like to read with a lovely gray cover. And I would like to read a section of the Confederate Constitution. Let's see what we have here. This is Article 4. It's the rights of the states. Article 4, Section 3, a couple paragraphs down. In all such territory, the institution of slavery, as it now exists in the Confederate States, shall be recognized and protected by Congress and the territorial government, and the inhabitants of the several Confederate States and territories shall have the right to take such territory, any slaves lawfully held by them in any of the states or territories of the Confederate States. Their own words. There are a lot of examples of these, South Carolina Ordinance of Secession, for instance, named slavery as the prime motivation of secession. It's right there. They wrote it down. And as Confederate monuments all across the South are coming down, lost causers are just even more desperate to cling to that belief, to cling to the notion that it wasn't pointless, that it was about something. And considering that the South lost an entire generation of men, considering how Northern Republicans after the war pretty much botched Reconstruction, I can't really blame them for reaching out to just grab onto anything that might sort of make meaning out of the chaos of that war. But that doesn't excuse their behavior, and it doesn't excuse that they don't look into the actual history. They don't recognize that the Civil War was not a struggle for independence or for freedom. It was a struggle to strip the freedom from others.
I can't pick up my musket and fight 'em now no more. But I ain't gonna love 'em now, that is certain sure. And I don't want no pardon for what I was and am. I won't be reconstructed and I don't care a damn.